Hello, welcome back to Soul Sundays at Spirit and Soul Studio. I am Tiffany Cohen, and today we are going to be diving into some of the texts that are really stand out for me. This whole thing, these Soul Sundays, was a long time coming. It was on my heart for about 2 years now. And I just really couldn't figure out how to maneuver it into the things that we're doing. And then the universe just kind of pushes, and that is what happened with me, and I kind of had to just start it immediately. So right now we're going to be in person about one time a month with me, and then we'll see as other teachers join how often we are in person on Sunday mornings. But no matter what, you have access to the replays, and you have access to this video as well, whether you're on YouTube. And I always am going to suggest heading on over to our app, and you can get all the information there. You can watch past episodes. But this week we are diving into Rise Sister Rise again by Rebecca Campbell, and then we are also going to dive into Bending Reality by Victoria Song. So these texts for me, and again, I talk about these texts in our lives because as we grow and as we find certain texts that really shape who we are and change our lives, they're like almost like our sacred texts. They're like our Bibles, right? Or whatever term you'd like to use. But like for me, that's what these texts become, where I continuously reread them over and over again, and I continuously come back to them, and or just pick a page and open up the book and say like, okay, what do I need to hear today? And I'll open up my Angel Prayers book by Kyle Gray, or I'll open up something and see what I need to hear in that moment. And these have become my own sacred text. So I'm going to offer this to you as well, as to understand that, especially like the books that we carry at Spirit and Soul, but in your own home library, what books shape your life? What books have helped you to grow? What books are, stay in your heart, and maybe you have learned to live differently because of them? Know that it's not just a book, right? And books are not ever, I don't think, just books. I think that there's beauty and sacredness behind them, in books that are based in the imagination. Well, where do you think that comes from? That is a source of energy. Like right now, I'm reading the Court of Thorns and Roses series, and for me, as I'm like watching this unfold in these books, I'm like, this was all going on another timeline. And that's what I keep telling myself. This all happened on another timeline, and the author tapped into this timeline and has created it and shifted it, or is just watching it unfold and channeling it, right? So understand that books, television shows, all of these things, they're coming from a creative place. And the creativity portion of that is allowing you to tap out of your own physical body, even though it feels like thoughts, they're not. So it's tapping out of that physical body, and you're tapping up into a higher source of information and receiving the downloads of it. So know that there's never a text that is not downloaded in some way and tapping into some type of higher vibration energy and frequency of some sort, or I should say some other timeline, because they might not be higher vibration frequencies. Not all books are good, right? Or are about good things. Okay, so today we're going to dive into Rise Sister Rise and Bending Reality. So Rise Sister Rise is a book that I found at the beginning of my spiritual journey, and has served as a source of inspiration to tap into another side of myself. Bending Reality is a book that I found very recently. The story of this is that I knew that I went to Barnes and Noble, and with my kids, and I knew that actually I was only there with Gavin, and I knew that I was supposed to get a book that day in the business area. And like I knew it, I was like being drawn to it. But now we're there for like an hour because Gavin's looking all around, and he's finding a book, and we're there for a while. And at this point now, I just want to start heading home. I have to cook dinner. And I'm like, all right, let me head over to the business section and start finding this book that I know I'm meant to find. And I just said in my mind, I said, angels, Please help me find the book that you are asking me to read, that you're leading me to read. And the second that I finish the statement in my mind, Gavin reaches up, because he's getting basically taller than me, and he reaches up to the top shelf, which I never probably would have looked at. And he grabbed a book off it and he goes, "Oh, mommy, look at this book." And he hands me Bending Reality. And I look at this book and I said, "What are you doing in the business section?" But it is. So Victoria Song is a business coach, but a spiritual coach as well. And she worked with Cindy Crawford, and she works with so many, like the owners of Honey, before they were bought out by PayPal, and she was helping them. I mean, like so many high profile clients she's had. And now she's, she wrote this book, and I started reading this book, and I immediately knew, because I've been asking, I said, I need a new mentor. I knew I was meant to be guided towards a new mentor. And who do I find? Victoria. So I start following her, start talking to her. Now I'm heading to her retreat that she's having this summer. And she's a wonderful, wonderful human being who has so much to offer the world and to you. So I highly suggest following her. I highly suggest reading Bending Reality. It's not just a business book, I can assure you that. And we're going to dive into a little bit of that today. All right. So Rise, Sister, Rise, we're going to start with first, and you can head to page 123 if you have the book. And this chapter is called Pray into the Anxiety. So Rebecca Campbell's books are channeled pieces. The chapters are usually like really short, maybe like 2 to 3 pages, and maybe a little more sometimes, but mostly they're about 2 to 3 pages. You might find poems in here, different things like that. So she starts out by saying, 2 years ago, I woke up with this subtle yet uncomfortable anxious feeling. I couldn't remember how long it had been there or when it started. The truth is, I don't remember ever not feeling it. The reason it felt foreign is because I had never actually allowed myself to feel it in full. The moment it came up, I'd push it back down in an effort to stop feeling it. So many of us live our lives like this, with subtle undercurrents of emotion that we are not aware of. So let's stop here for a moment, because this is a good question to start leaning into a little bit, is what comes up for you in your life, or what emotion comes up that you notice that it starts to come up and you bury it down? I'm going to tell you something. This can be a range of emotions. So while she's talking about anxiety, which is something that a lot of us feel, I want you to lean into many different areas. This could mean that love, maybe if love comes up for you, if someone is interested in you, or someone gives you a compliment, because that's a form of love, or somebody like thanks you for something, has gratitude towards you, and you're pushing it away, that is also you stuffing down that emotion, right? Like not receiving it, not allowing yourself to receive it. Or if you feel love towards someone else, something else, do you stop yourself in feeling it fully, allowing love to really shine through, not just saying, I love you, but really feeling into those words, right? Really feeling into, I love you, right? And there's a difference there. You could feel it hit your heart rather than just stay at the surface. So I want you to start exploring how you feel your emotions. Do you feel them deeply and fully? Do you feel them on the surface? Do you not feel them at all? This is going to change your life when you start to understand how you are dealing with any emotion in your life. My son Nico is a Scorpio, so he's a little fiery, if you will. And I look at this kid, and he's 7.5, and I love how he feels emotions. He feels his emotions so deeply, so deeply. Now, it's really beautiful when it's love and when it's excitement and joy. This kid, it's written all over his face, and his heart feels the full extent of the emotion of the love, right? And it's a joy to behold, because you feel that energy, that high vibration energy, like just rolling and radiating off of him. And it's amazing. On the other end of the spectrum, he gets angry very passionately, and he really feels like, if he feels disappointment, he feels disappointment to the max, right? So learning as a parent to try to maneuver between the two, because understanding, and I'm going to say this to you as well, emotions, when you cut off the feeling of the emotions, let's say you're cutting off the low vibration emotion. You don't want to feel angry. You don't want to feel sad. You don't want to feel heartbroken or jealous. And you start cutting off the energy flow to the emotion. Remember, emotion is energy in motion. Okay. So when you start to cut off that energy flow, well, you're not just cutting it off from that emotion, you're cutting it off from the emotion that's at the other end of the spectrum as well. So if you cut off, like let's say you cut off heartbreak, you're also cutting off the deepest version of love. So just understand that if you're cutting off your, let's say you're being scared, right? Fearful. So if you're cutting off your fear, you're also cutting off your excitement, because excitement and fear are the same emotion, just at one end higher vibration and a lower end vibration. So as a parent for Nico, I'm trying to deal with allowing him to feel these things, but then but also teaching him how to maneuver through it so that it's not coming out as hitting. Remember, he's a child, so hitting or screaming in frustration at somebody else when it was an accident or something. So we're trying to work with these things, but not cutting it off and saying you can't do that, you can't feel that, because I know at the other end that cuts off the beauty of the joy. Not that beauty can't be found in anger. It can be, right? It's a massive release when you feel anger and then process it through and let it go, not just sit in the anger. So, working with him and feeling into that energy, I see it now. And then I see it with my clients as well, right? I see this, people cutting off feeling sad or thinking that they healed something already. That's a big thing. Like, well, I already healed that already. But yet they can't feel, they're not allowing themselves to feel what comes up. So when we start to cut our emotions off, we're not allowing the emotion to be felt fully through the body, and we're cutting off any healing that comes with that, or we're cutting off the highest vibration emotion that we could feel. So first, start with that. Even if you have to pause for a moment, start to sit with, what emotions do I cut off as I feel them? Then she goes on to say, I realized how I had been looking at this anxiety as a feeling that needed to be fixed, something that should go away, something that I should not be feeling. I realized how I had seen my negative emotions, pain, and suffering as things I needed to overcome, things I should be ashamed of feeling, where the truth is that all feelings and parts are parts of the human experience, and they are all holy. So each time I noticed the feeling return, instead of pushing it into the shadows where it could control me or trying to fix it, I would invite it in fully. By allowing my anxiety to come sit beside me, the prayer energy was finally able to reach it, to envelop it, to cradle it, to soften it. Wow. I have chills right now. So what Rebecca is saying, and Victoria's song mirrors this in Bending Reality, is that in order to allow yourself to be free of what lurks in the shadows for you, you have to feel it fully. You have to allow it in, as uncomfortable as it may be for you. Allowing it in fully, completely, like it doesn't give it power. When you start to give your shadows power and the emotions that maybe come with those shadows power, those lower vibration frequencies, those lower vibration emotions, when you start to ignore them, when you start to shy away from them, you're fearful of them, You don't want to go there right now, right? How many times do we say that? I'm not going to go there right now. You actually are giving it power. So allowing yourself to completely feel it fully allows it to actually wash away. And I will tell you, what comes in behind it is beauty. She goes on to say, instead of being held, stuck, stagnant, I began to notice each time it sparked up through my day. In each moment, I'd allow myself to feel it fully. By allowing it all to be here, I saw how this anxiety had actually been a powerful driving force in me getting stuff done, a superpower of sorts. How amazing. So suddenly you start to, once you start to allow it in, it's like, okay, I'm just going to feel it fully and then let it go because it doesn't get to control me. When it's controlling you is like, let's say if you do feel anxiety, is when you start saying, go away, anxiety. I don't want to see you. I don't want to see you right now. There's nothing to be scared of, nothing to be scared of. No, there's not. That's what you know, right? The truth is there because anxiety is you looking to a future that hasn't happened yet. And in that future, bad things are happening or things that are making you worry. So instead of it, just allowing the energy of it to fully pass through you and then see what happens after. So I'm going to tell you a story. I had gotten my first mammogram this year, and I went to, I got my results, and my results came back, and they were, I guess, abnormal, whatever it was. They wanted me to go back in, and immediately now you're getting this call, and I'm getting scared. I'm getting nervous, and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to be nervous, right? So I'm not allowing myself to really feel it. I'm like, nope, that's not my truth. I'm not feeling that. And I started to have this thought process behind it. So now I am coming up on going to my follow-up visit. And I get the follow-up visit, and I lay down on the bed, and the woman, just when she puts the sonogram, I'm getting the sonogram, just when she puts the sonogram on me, she says, so, breast cancer runs in your family? And I knew in that moment, while those words really stung, that I was being tested. I had done enough shadow work and am very intentional about my surroundings and my world, that I could see already that I was in a story. I was in a part of my life that now in this moment I had to either like take my power or succumb to fear. And like let it like completely ravage me, because that those words did that to me in that moment. And I said, am I going to react or am I going to respond? So I just said, no, it doesn't. And she kept going, and of course she took a really long time, and then of course the universe works in mysterious ways, and she says, well, the computers are really slow today, so it's going to take a little extra time before we get the results, but the doctor will be in soon. And she left the room, and I was in there by myself, and her words were replaying in my mind, and I started to try to shove out the fear. And I said, no, I am going to allow myself to feel this fully. Now, just so you understand, had just finished reading Bending Reality. And what she says in here, and I'll read you some passages, is that you have to allow it to feel itself through your body and then let it go. So I allowed the fear in, and I allowed it to take over my mind. So I allowed it in from the top of my head, and I allowed it to take over my mind. And the fearful thoughts all came rushing to the surface, and all these terrible things and these terrible thoughts. And then suddenly, because I was just allowing them, suddenly the energy started moving, and it moved down my throat. But my mind was more clear. And in my throat, I could feel like I was being choked by fear, choked by, the a life that I did not expect on my journey. And then as I let it go fully down through my heart space, I allowed my heart to break, right? And like started to see all the different things that could possibly happen if this timeline was opening itself up for me, if I was going to accept it. And I saw my family's reactions and all the things. And then suddenly, because I wasn't pushing it away, I just let it pass through. And when I tell you that these were seconds, that felt longer, that's for sure. But in reality, it wasn't taking long. And then it pushed through into my solar plexus, and my solar plexus, my area of joy, was just sucked out. It was like darkness had overcome me, and all of my confidence just sucked away, and everything that I thought I knew where my life was going was just being sucked away from me. And then that passed. And then it starts going into my sacral area, and my sacral area is saying, like, it's completely washing away the reality that I was creating for myself, and it's creating a different one that I was not creating for myself. And then it passed through that, and of course it gets to the root, my area of safety, and that's when the tears start flowing even harder than they were, and just allowing it all in fully. And then as it passed through my root, and as it passed through my legs and out of my feet, I suddenly felt light, and my mind kicked back on, and the truth came pouring in. My truth came pouring in, not the truth from a fear-based perspective, but my truth, the things that I had seen in my meditations, the things that I had been given for so long, came flooding into me, into my mind, into my body. And I realized that this was not my story. That was a fear-based story. And while I allowed it in for a moment, I was not accepting it. I did not ask it to stay, right? If I would have kept ruminating over each area that this fear energy passed through, I would have kept it there. I would have held it there, and I would have accepted a reality that I did not want and that was never shown to me. So as I'm recognizing this, I feel Mother Mary's energy come in, and I feel light begin to pour through the top of my crown and clearing me of anything that was not mine. And I feel her holding me. I feel Mary Magdalene come in and giving me that empowered energy. And they just held me in this space, one at my feet and one at my head. And I felt just this incredible energy of light pouring through and clearing out and empowering me after I just sat through what felt like hours of fear coursing through my body. I suddenly had no recollection of that energy. I couldn't even feel it if I wanted to in those moments. And I began to see like the vision of the doctor walk in, and I started to manifest the story, right? I started to create the reality that I was going to see. And the doctor walks in, and in my mind, this is what is unfolding, that the doctor was going to walk in, open the door and say, Tiffany, everything is all clear. We'll see you next year. And the moment that I let that go and I felt it fully in my body, and now I'm smiling and I let it go, the door opened about 10, 15 seconds later, and the doctor walks in and says, okay, Tiffany, you're all set. See you next year. And I just laughed to myself because I felt like almost like I had completed a massive task or a massive challenge and won. And it changed the way that I truly experience things in the moment. And I realized that I had control over the timelines that I was going to step into. And I didn't step into a fear based one, that's for sure, even though I felt it. I didn't accept it. And there is a big difference between feeling the emotions and then accepting them as truths. So when we feel them fully, okay, and don't attach to the emotion, don't feel it through, but we just allow it to make its way out, then that's all that it wanted. The minute that you grasp onto those low vibration fear energies and all of that stuff, and you begin to repeat it in your mind, and you begin to see that future unfolding before you in like a way that the emotions are deeply attached to it, and you're saying, okay, this is what's happening, I know it, even though I don't want it. The moment you start to hang on is the moment that you choose differently, right? Every thought that you have, everything that you feel, it all shapes your reality. It will all create your reality. Your mind is like the magic wand. Put your mind and your emotions together, and you've created the magic wand for that reality. Like, think about that for a moment. You're manifesting it. You're never not manifesting. So you had better be really clear about how you wield that wand. Are you wielding it for good in your life? Are you wielding it for a higher vibration lifestyle? Or are you wielding it for one that is based in fear, in doubt, in limiting beliefs? Which one do you choose? In dis-ease? Is that what you're choosing? Now, we don't want to choose dis-ease, but our thoughts and our emotions and all the things create that. So if I pick up now Bending Reality, she talks about these, Victoria's song talks about these different unlearnings that the book is going to show you. And one of the unlearnings is if you don't feel your emotions, then the energy patterns get stuck and metastasize, creating dis-ease in the body, which becomes disease. So when you don't allow yourself, and now if we look at this on a nervous system perspective, if you don't allow yourself to let the emotions go, to let the experiences go, to let the overwhelm, a lot of times our nervous systems get overwhelmed with whatever is happening around us. And that's what causes the trauma, and that's what stores it in the body. So if we allow it to stay and don't work it through and let it out, what we're saying is create a home here. That's what we're saying to that energy. Create a home here. And your ego is more than happy to do it because your ego's like, yeah, we don't want to feel that again. So like, let's keep this energy as a reminder for like what happened last time. And that's what will continue to happen. So then your ego is keeping you out of feeling something that hurt you or that made you upset or was very an uncomfortable feeling. So your ego is more than happy to hang on to that energy so that you don't have to feel it again because it thinks you don't want to, which, listen, we don't, but that doesn't mean that we want to stay away from everything and every opportunity that could get us there, that could get us to a higher vibration place, because it also could mean that it could bring us to a low vibration place. And that's how we keep ourselves stuck and don't go for things and don't take chances and limit the life that we're meant to live. So understanding this and understanding how the nervous system works, what we can really do is allow ourselves to feel it and then not attach and not create what's called a samskara in our energetic field. Now, I do spinal energetics work. This is what I'm doing. I'm helping you to let go of the samskaras. But what you can do going forward is, number one, let go of the old ones. But number two, really try your best at not creating new ones, not creating new ones that hold you back. And that's what I did in that moment, laying on that bed. Was I didn't create a new one. I created an empowering story out of it that I could use now to show, number one, creating my life and not allowing a timeline that I didn't want, that would keep me off track from what I'm meant to do on this planet, into my system, into my field. So, um, so this is what spinal energetics is great for, is like allowing that energy to be let go of. So the ones that you do create, or the ones that have already been created, we can start to release them. And this is all about nervous system work, your nervous system, just like with the energy patterns that Rebecca was talking about with anxiety. These are all things that are stored in the system, and they come up because they don't truly, the energy doesn't want to be stuck in your body. Energy wants to go. Energy wants to flow. Understand that. When energy is stuck, it doesn't like it. So your ego again might like it, but energy being stuck, it's not serving you well, and it doesn't want to be. So when you don't allow yourself to feel these emotions, you're staying in a state of what Victoria's song calls, and not just her, a lot of people call it this, but in a state of contraction. And you can create whatever, you could create life from a state of contraction. But I'm going to tell you something. Everything is going to be hard. So like, yeah, like you could create the business of your dreams. You could have the love of your dreams. You could have anything that you want in life. But I'm going to tell you something. If you're doing it from a place of fear, of doubt, of I'm not good enough, unworthiness, not loving yourself, I'm going to tell you something. That is going to be very hard. It is going to be an uphill battle for you. So, yeah, calling in the love of your life, you're going to go through a ton of people that are not for you, that are teaching you lessons left and right. So, yeah, in the end, you might get your love, but at what cost, right? If you were coming from a place of expansion energy, which is I let some scars go. I let the contraction go, and I let it go by feeling it fully and then not giving it power anymore and saying, it's okay, head on out. You're not welcome here. You ain't got to go home, but you got to get the hell out of here, right? Like that's the energy of letting go of these contraction bits and stepping into a place of expansion. And when we create from expansion, it's easy. It's flow. It's what I call soul flow. It allows your body, your energy, things in life, the synchronicities, the universe to all work in tandem with flow, with the highest timeline. And that is what is so beautiful about creating from expansion. But you can't create at all without emotion. So know that. So know that the whole thing of this Soul Sunday is about allowing yourself to feel emotions fully and deeply, no matter if they're at the highest end or at the lowest end of the energetic spectrum. They all are trying to tell you something. They're all trying to shape you and help you to grow. But if you're too afraid to feel those emotions, then you are the only one, as we always are, that is stopping your growth. So allow yourself this week, and maybe take out a journal right now and just start to get clear on what's coming up for you right now. I mean, we have the full moon, my full moon circle coming up in 2 weeks. And this is going to be, and usually the full moon circles are a lot about shadow work and letting go and releasing, because that's the energy of the full moon. This one in particular, though, is going to be released, but more about opening up the heart to the things that we want and opening up the heart to what we need to let go of, and how we do both, how we allow and create space for both. So we're going to be having a cacao ceremony, and it's really going to be beautiful. So if you're finding it hard to do this, or just not even hard, you just want that extra help in doing it, make sure you sign up. I would love to see you there. Okay. So take out that journal, writing all the things that in your life that you could see where you're not allowing the emotions in fully, and maybe have a moment of whatever's coming up right now. Maybe lay back and start to allow that energy to be felt fully, and allow it in and just see what happens. Allow it to be an experiment, and you will see that it passes. And as long as you don't attach to it, it's going to pass with ease, and light and love are going to be coming right on through. That I can promise you. And you can also call in for help. Call on your angels, call on your guides. Call on whoever you need, your ancestors, loved ones that have passed. Call them in. Call in your higher self and be like, hold me through this. You're never alone, ever, ever, ever alone. So understand that as you feel it fully and allow yourself to let it go, my goodness, the beauty comes behind it. I promise you. I promise you it does. If you allow yourself to see it. All right. Thank you for joining me on this Soul Sunday. And make sure that you are checking the schedule to see when we are going to be in person next. But you can always expect a Sunday video from me, or you'll be expecting the replay that will be up if we are in person. All right. Have a great week ahead of you. Bye.